everybody, and welcome to Nats at Night. This is episode 5, and I'm your host, Trey. And we got some Nats baseball to talk both on and off the field. Actually, probably more importantly, off the field. But we'll get to that in a sec. Let's go ahead and start off with a Nats recap. It's actually been a while because I did an umpire special episode of Nats at Night instead of a normal episode last time. So it's actually been quite a few series and the full All-Star break since I actually did a normal episode. But it was kind of weird because the Nats played about as bad as you can play for about 20 days of June. And I think they won like 2 games in that span, it felt like. And then they all of a sudden rattle off about 4 series wins. They actually beat Philly, Seattle, Texas, and San Diego. Those are teams that are all fighting for playoff spots. Seattle's maybe a little out, San Diego's a little out, but they're trying to win. And the Nats actually beat all of them, and also got completely embarrassed in 4 games by the Reds in between all of that somehow. And then the series versus the Reds kind of was more like significant to me in my head, because I was like, this kind of is how we're actually playing, and this team that came in and playing really well is showing us how an actually good team is supposed to look. We were winning those, so that was good, but there was definitely some question marks, and then that Red series definitely impacted us, because then we came out of the break, lost to the Cardinals and the Cubs out of the break. Pretty embarrassing series versus the Cubs, honestly. We got 17 runs scored against us, and then the next day the bullpen just completely collapsed, and that's been a big issue and theme over the past couple weeks, and honestly the past month has been the bullpen issues. We got injuries, and we got underperformances, and we got basically Mike Rizzo and or Dave Martinez and or Jim Hickey just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, and nothing's really sticking. So I guess they got to just continue to check out the waiver wire, because we need some pitching help. It's bad. But I'll tell you what's not bad: CJ Abrams, who I will actually get to a little later with a bigger segment. But I'll go ahead and quickly say he's doing good. All right, anyways, we're going to go ahead and move on from Nats recap now and head into the draft, because the Nationals had the number 2 overall pick. And in case you missed it, which you probably didn't, you've probably seen by now, Dylan Crews is a Washington National. He was picked 2nd overall after Paul Skeens went number 1 to the Pirates. I think it was probably whoever the Pirates didn't pick between those 2 guys was going to be who the Nats picked. And so Dylan Crews is a National and automatically becomes our first/second best prospect, because James Wood is extremely talented. And oh my goodness, an outfield with those 2 guys is going to be really something to see, hopefully. And actually, it's going to be different because Crews will probably be ready to come up. Stop it. I love you, but you keep interrupting me. How am I supposed to do Nats at Night? How am I supposed to do Nats at Night with you doing this? Okay, where was I? Dylan Crews, good player. Will probably be up sooner rather than later, because he's already 21, 22. So he might already be ready. So let's be honest. So he'll be coming up pretty soon. Him and James Wood in the outfield is going to be a treat to watch. So make sure you get prepared for them 2025 Nats. How about, let's say 2025, they'll both be playing the full season, let's say. That's my prediction. Anyways, let's move on to 2 other guys, because the Nationals had a top-heavy spending strategy with the draft. If you don't know much about the MLB draft, it's a little bit different than a normal draft because of the way that the money allocation works. Teams don't always sign guys for the price that is the slot value. So in this case, the Nationals actually did the opposite. They actually went over slot so they could sign players who maybe would go to college or maybe would go back to school. The Nationals didn't go and get these guys. I believe Mr. Yohandy Yo-Yo Morales of Miami, the Nationals' second-round pick, was a junior, so he could have gone back to school if he wanted to, but the Nationals went slightly over slot and picked him up in the second round at pick number 40. Now, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Teams might have seen him as expensive coming out as a junior, which is why he actually fell down to 40. This dude's a top 20 prospect out of college. So essentially the Nats basically overpaid here so that they could get another first-round talent. If that's about as good as I can explain it. So hopefully that was at least somewhat correct explanation. But that's why you're going to have these guys that were probably first-round talent being picked in the second and third rounds because of the way that their payouts worked. So in the case of Yohandy Morales, the Nats went slightly over slot to sign him at about $2.5 million, I think. So I think his slot value was like 2.1, so they went over so that they would guarantee the signing. And then the third round pick, it's even greater. Okay, let me see if I can. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so bear with me. Travis Sikora or Sikora. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it, but he's a high school prep arm. Okay, this is a 6'6", 235-pound right-handed pitcher that can touch 101 miles per hour and sits 95 to 99. Real. And so the Nationals had to go way over slot at a third-round pick. The slot value of the 71st pick, I believe, was like $1 million, just over $1 million. And they signed this big righty that I can't pronounce his name for 2.6, 2.4, something like that, like way overvalued because he's a high school arm and he was committed to Texas. So if he wanted to, he could have gone to college, but the Nats scooped him up with a good deal. So they are going to have he's a project, but oh my goodness gracious, the physicality and the stuff is certainly there. And seems to be a pretty hard worker, judging from the YouTube stuff I'm seeing. He has a strict routine to try and stay healthy because he seems to be already well aware of the fact that young pitchers that throw really hard have the tendency to get injury prone if they do not take care of their bodies. So that's something interesting to keep an eye out for. But those top three picks, I think, are the most important because after that, the Nationals' spending strategy really changed into signing college seniors that weren't getting as much looks for lower values because they'd already spent a lot of their money. And Dylan Cruz, by the way, was signed for $9 million, so that's a lot of their draft money to one guy, which, of course, you have to do because he's Dylan frickin' Cruz. Anyways, let's talk about the on-field product. Finally, I'm getting into the on-field product, of good on-field product for the Nats, I should say, because we're talking about Leadoff CJ Abrams. I believe it's been 2 to 3 weeks. I think he did it right before the All-Star break, where Davey finally put CJ Abrams in the leadoff spot. Now, I actually made a preseason what I wanted the lineup to be, and I had CJ up at the top initially. Now we had some shuffling there, and then Lane really took it over. And then, but finally, Davey has decided that it's time to utilize the speed that's on this team because we have a lot of it and they've completely underutilized it. And get CJ Abrams going at the leadoff spot, try and getting him on base, stealing, scoring runs, and it is working like a charm. So finally, I'll give Davey props for doing it. But although I think, again, I still think it's pretty late. I feel like CJ's should have been in the leadoff spot earlier. But anyways, I digress. Let's get into the numbers. Okay, so at the time that I'm recording this, which, by the way, it is 11:38 p.m. at night, actually a little earlier than I normally do these because I'm a degenerate. Anyways, at the time that I'm recording this, CJ Abrams in July has a 186 WRC+. Might actually be even higher because he homered tonight. So might be close to 200 WRC+ in July. Won the Player of the Week award, a Washington National, in the year of our Lord, 2023. Won a Player of the Week. I mean, I feel like I moved my head a lot, but that's pretty crazy. That was cool. I honestly didn't think he'd get it just because, I mean, nobody outside of Nats fans really cares about the Nats at this point. So thought they'd go with someone else, but I'm glad that he won it and got recognized. Awesome stuff. And also, on top of his batting improving and his general confidence improving, his defense is coming around a little bit more. Now, I think he had a 3-error opening day game, and I really think that could have maybe impacted him mentally for the first half of the season, because he really struggled in the field after coming over last year and looking really good. So I was definitely concerned, but he's definitely improving as the year is going on and as he's gained more confidence. So looking a lot more smooth over there, which is good. And, he doesn't have to be the greatest defender, but he's got to be, average. Give me average defense and above average speed, above average bat, and we're looking at an all-star player. So CJ is definitely another guy who, you kind of look at as an extension candidate, because if you don't get him early and he starts going off, he's going to want to go to free agency. So interesting decisions will have to be made regarding CJ, but also so he's obviously in the leadoff spot now. They're letting him run a lot more. Basically every time he gets on first, he's stealing, which is about time. I mean, this is how we should have been playing the entire season, to steal runs away from other teams, because we don't have any power. Anyways, so he's running wild. He's stolen, I think, 8 bases since being moved to the leadoff spot, and out of those 8, 4 times the umps called him out initially, and we had to overturn via challenge. And at least 3 of those I caught in full speed in real time and was immediately like, he's safe. So you can follow me on Twitter to see those rants if you want, but I've been pretty upset about the way they've officiated him. I don't really get how you can be the second base ump and be standing right there. This is not one missed call. This is 4 out of the 8 we've had to overturn via challenge because they've called him out. It's ridiculous. If you've been watching, you know what I mean. I'll probably put him on screen a little bit. Anyways, next segment. I don't want to be lingering too much because I actually have 2 more things I want to get to. Okay, this is a silly little segment that I have come up with. It is called What Does He Even Do? Hey, everybody come on down here. Let's play some What Does He Even Do? Welcome back to What Does He Even Do, a segment that I've definitely been doing this whole time. The candidate this week, Mr. Corey Dickerson. Come on down, bud. So, what does Mr. Corey Dickerson do for this team? Well, he strikes out a lot at pitches that hit in front of the plate. He makes errors. He dropped a pop-up in the Cubs series and still managed to get the force out because Cody Bellinger didn't see it, but that was pretty embarrassing. He's got a 64 WRC+. He was brought in to hit against right-handed pitching, and he is actually hitting worse against right-handed pitching than left-handed pitching for the first time in his career, of course, with the Nationals. Not like he's hitting lefties good, of course. He has a 73 OPS plus versus lefties and a 68 OPS plus versus righties, which is bad. Because he swings at everything, he has like a 4% walk rate, and he's not hitting for enough power to sustain that approach. What does he even do? Not a whole lot, and I think that that means he's got to go. And it's not going to be via trade. I can't see any team even remotely entertaining a trade for Corey Dickerson at this point because he's just not doing anything valuable in any way. So we're going to have to hope that Mike Rizzo goes for the DFA option and lets Stone Garrett cook or brings, like, I don't know, Blake Rutherford or Travis Blankenhorn up or something. But I'll end this segment positively. I don't hate Corey Dickerson or anything. It just didn't work out. But, you know, he had a good career, 11-year career. Not many guys can do that. You get to the 10-year mark, you get that pension. I think you get on the ballot automatically, or you might, that like gives you the option to get on the ballot. Not that he would make the Hall of Fame or anything, but still, you get on the ballot. That's a cool little milestone. Uh, I think he's at least an All-Star one time. So that's cool. Made an All-Star team. Not many players in the history of baseball can say that they did that. So good for Corey Dickerson. If you know, oh, by the way, the pension I mentioned, bars. If you don't know about this, it's actually really funny. You get every baseball player that makes it 10 years and or 1,000 games of service time gets a $100,000 pension every year. It's annual. So they must have some kind of fund for that specifically at MLB. So interesting stuff with that. But yeah, so Corey Dickerson didn't work out with us. That's how it is. He needs to go, and we'll bring up a young guy to give them a chance instead. Do not keep him around on the roster for 3,000 freaking at-bats that he doesn't need. Nelson Cruz. Anyways, let's have more fun on the ending here with a little prospect showcase. Because, once again, we're heading back to the draft. We're looking for a guy who is a later round pick that can maybe be impactful. And these are guys who, it's funny when you look at the money lineup of the draft picks. Once you get past like the 5th round, the signing bonuses are like $20,000 because all of those guys are seniors that don't have any more options to go back to school. They have to basically take what they can get on a roster. But then in the later rounds, you'll see stuff like this. Our 16th round pick, Austin Amerill from Stetson University. He was a junior, so this dude did have an option to go back to school if he did want to. So you have to grease his palms a little bit, but these guys aren't as big of deals as some of the earlier round picks. Austin Amerill, 16th round pick by the Nationals this season. Right-handed pitcher out of Stetson University. I don't know if you know this, but there was a right-handed pitcher from Stetson University who was kind of good. He's won 2 Cy Youngs. He used to be a shortstop, and he's currently hurt, which sucks. But that's basically that was why I picked. No, I'm just kidding. So this is a late-round pick with some potential as a depth arm, which the Nationals are clearly in need of right now with the bullpen shenanigans. Because when I say depth, you saw as soon as we had 2 injuries, everything fell apart. So we got to have some guys that can step up and at least be serviceable. And I think Austin Amerill, however you say his name, has a chance. Some tough pronunciations tonight. But he has strong numbers at Stetson in his career, consistent throughout. So it wasn't just one big year. Actually, his junior season, or his sophomore season, he had a slightly better ERA, although his junior season saw his innings go up to 76.1 innings pitched with a 3.30 ERA, which I believe was 5th in the Atlantic Sun Conference. So pretty good stuff from him, 9 Ks per 9 innings, and doesn't give up home runs. Has a little bit of a walk issue because he has a pretty wicked slider / sweeper as his main secondary pitch. That is wicked, but it is kind of tough for him to control. If he does command that, that's definitely a big deal. And he's going to have to add another pitch if he wants to be, or at least polish another pitch if he wants to continue to start. I see him more as a reliever in the long term. But you need pitching depth for guys that have starter ability that can also pitch out of the bullpen. Especially now with the way that long relievers have popped up in bullpens everywhere because starters don't go as long. So you got to have guys that can do both. I think Austin Amerill projects as that type of player. And we really need some of these late round guys to start working out because the lack of depth is really showing in these drafts, and it's been showing for a long time. But now that we're in the rebuild, we need these guys to come and give at least manageable innings, and it's just not happening. So that's where we stand with Mr. Austin Amerill. There's other guys that caught my eye in the draft as well, but he had the best numbers. A lot of those guys are also potential based picks, so you look at their numbers and they're not that great, but that's why they have scouts that are actually seeing those guys live, because not everything is based on the numbers. But at the same time, numbers are important too. Nationals, can we start looking at them, please? Anyways, that's the end of Nats at Night episode 5. Hope you guys enjoyed this normal episode. I don't know when the next special will be, but that was pretty fun. So I guess it'll just be whenever something happens that's interesting enough to talk about. But for now, I'll probably be doing some normal episodes going forward. So I'll see you guys next time. Peace.